When you think about the Attorney General's office, you might think robocalls or scammers or the opioid crisis. But what about cigarettes? What about data breaches? What about coal ash? They're all issues that are top of mind for the North Carolina Attorney General Josh Stein, and he is joining us today to talk about all of those things and more and to answer your questions. If you have a question for the Attorney General, you can text that question to 379-5775. That number is also going to be at the bottom of your screen. Now, again, this is a text only. Do not call. You must send a text message with your question, not a call. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
And it's always a pleasure to be with you. Thanks for having me.
So today is a big day because today, 7 years ago to the day, is when the Duke coal ash spill happened. And from there, so much has happened. We've got a timeline that we'd like to put up for folks so that we can kind of just bring everybody in. So it was February 2nd, 2014. 2017, Duke Energy petitioned the Utilities Commission to have customers pay all of the cleanup after the first $100 million. December 2020, the North Carolina AG took to the Supreme Court, back to the Utilities Commission, and changed all that up. Now Duke Energy and the AG has come to a settlement. Of course, that needs to be approved. But if this settlement is approved and goes through, what does that mean for the everyday person who's either paying their bills or just living in our state?
Well, it will mean that your energy bills to the collective tune will be saved over $1 billion, $1.1 billion. The legislature, after that oil spill 7 years ago, ordered the Department of Environmental Quality to come up with a plan for Duke to clean up the coal ash. And that was a resolution, a settlement that happened last year. And under it, Duke is going to be excavating 120 million tons of coal ash. It will be the largest remediation of coal ash in the history of the country. What was unanswered was who would pay for that. The legislature had decided that the Utilities Commission would make that decision. And a couple of years ago, the commission decided that the full cost should be borne by the ratepayer, other than a $100 million penalty. I was not happy with that decision. I thought it was the wrong decision, and I appealed it to the North Carolina Supreme Court, where we had a win of sorts. They issued a decision in December, sending it back for further consideration to the Utilities Commission, and that's what led to this really groundbreaking settlement that I negotiated a couple of weeks ago that will now take $1 billion of cost off of the back of the ratepayers and put it on to Duke's shareholders, its owners.
All right, so two quick things that I want to talk about. The first point is, so Duke Energy payers will be seeing a difference in their bill, but we don't know how much or when. Is that right?
That's right. We still need for the Utility Commission to rule on our proposed settlement. They have to ratify it. And then it gets translated into rates for shareholders, for the ratepayers. And there are other aspects of what we pay for, like improvements to the grid and the cost of fuel. But the one thing that is certain is we will be saving ratepayers, meaning that if we didn't do what we did, the costs that people would be paying would be greater had we not stepped up and said, this is wrong. The Duke shareholders have to pay some as well.
All right, and then the second thing is, even though this was a big win, we still have billions of dollars more to pay for the Duke coal ash spill. And we're talking about after what, all the way up through 2030?
It's not for the coal ash spill. That was a separate matter. Duke paid that 100%. This has to do with the coal ash that are sitting in these big pits beside the power plants that haven't necessarily leaked into any drinking water or any rivers. And so it's going to be a sharing of the cost between the people who, you and me, consumers, and Duke's shareholders, its owners. But at least in this instance, we don't have to bear all the costs. They're going to take on over $1 billion of those costs.
Okay. All right. So if you do have any other questions about the Duke Coal Ash monies and how that is going to work, feel free to text us and we can answer that question. In the meantime, we've got several other questions that we want to get to. First and foremost, this person says, what type of vaccine-related scams has your office been alerted to?
Yeah, the most common scam we're hearing has to do with people promising that they can get you a vaccine quicker. They can move you ahead of the line. And that's just not so. They're trying to, most of the times, they're trying to steal your money by getting you to pay them to move you ahead when they can't do that. Or they're trying to get your personal information to have you fill out a form that includes either your bank account number, your social security number, or other valuable personal information. Just know that everybody is doing everything they can to get shots in the arm as quickly as possible, but there's nothing you can do to advance your priority.
There's no waiting list that you can pay to get on. That is not how this works. A follow-up text was, what is the biggest virus scam out there right now? I'm guessing the vaccine scam is number one. And the next biggest scam I'm sure you're hearing about is stimulus.
Yes, we just had the stimulus in December, and frankly, it looks like that Congress is going to pass another economic relief bill in the coming days or weeks. That will just be an opportunity for the crooks to come forward again and try to take whatever economic impact payment, whatever unemployment benefit, whatever kind of relief is in the bill. Ultimately, whenever there's a big cash flow, they try to stick their hands out and grab it. Just beware and know that there are bad actors out there trying to take your money.
Speaking of the bad actors, someone just texted in and said, hey, can you tell me if someone calls me and tells me I can pay $200 to get a vaccine now instead of having to wait? Is it a scam? It's absolutely a scam. Yeah, that can't happen. All right, we've got several questions about Duke Coal and the coal ash. We're going to take those when we come back from the break. Remember, you can continue to text your question 336-379-5775.